Guard.
Loving it, man. Just getting these reps in. Probably the first time I got a chance to get this many reps in at guard before the season started. So I'm doing the best I can do to get the technique down. And the coach has been doing a tremendous job helping me with that, and I feel good.
With Cole putting his stamp on things, what is that coaching style like? We have some ideas about it because of Dante Scarnecchia, that influence, but what's it like playing for him?
Oh, man, nasty. You got to have to play with a lot of grit. You know, one offensive line that are physical, that don't take shit from nobody, and they just establish, you know, the dominance up front. He exemplifies that every morning, every day on the field, and we want that in a coach because it's only going to rub off on the offensive line. And, you know, he holds us to a high standard.
Your positional flexibility, you've played now left guard, right tackle, and right guard. Everything but center. Could you play center if you had to?
If I had to. I got it.
What do you like about moving around and being flexible and helping the team that way?
The more you can do. You know, I'm a guy who can play at every spot on the offensive line. I can play at a high level at every spot. I just got to keep working and continue to get better. And I feel like this year is going to be my biggest year.
I feel like you've always been a leader, but Laramie, with his exit and the changes, do you feel like something of a feeling of, hey, I want to take on that leadership mantle. I want to, you know, you're one of the older guys.
I'm all in on it, you know. Yeah. I'm doing the best I can do to transform my body, transform my daily habits, all that to, you know, to show the younger guys the right way to do it. I'm looking forward to that challenge of being that leader in the group, and, you know, I want to be a guy that guys look up to and be like, hey, man, like Tidy's doing it the right way, and I want to, you know, do it that way. So, you know, I'm looking forward to it.
Is there a chip on the shoulder collectively of the line? Obviously, last year they made so many changes. And when they make changes, it's because they're saying in their actions, I think actions always speak loudest than words. They're saying, hey, we didn't like last year. We wanted more from the line. We want it to be better.
Yeah, I mean, we got a chip on our shoulder, and people underestimate what we're going to be this year, but, you know, that's their problem. When that first game come and we come out that ball and hit them in the mouth, like, they're going to be like, oh, these guys for real.
Changes the narrative.
I feel like we've been putting that work in right now, and we're going to continue to put that work in training camp, and everything ain't going to be perfect, but I'm telling you, when that game one comes and they see what the Texans offensive line is about, we're going to be ready.
Changes that narrative, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't take long.
It don't take long, bro.
Yep.
It don't take long.
And you liking what the Nick Caley offense is like?
I love it. It's an O-line friendly offense. It gives us a chance to come off the rock and get double teams and move guys off the ball. And that's only going to open up the pass game because we're going to be able to protect.
I feel like D'Amico said this very well at the owners' meetings. He said any reports, and I knew this just from being there, about a toxic culture with the offensive line group. Did you laugh when you saw that? And obviously D'Amico shot it down, but was that like, where was this coming from?
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. We didn't have a toxic group as far as the players and stuff like that. We didn't have a toxic group. I feel like the guys on the group's always been close since I've been here. It's just a matter of, you know, the type of style of offense we've been in, or the type of coaching we get, you know. And I feel like this coaching that we're getting right now is one of the best coaching I've had since I've been in the league. And, you know, it's attention to detail. No matter if you're a year 11, year one guy, everybody getting coached the same way, and that's the type of stuff we need right now.
Hey, you guys are a close-knit group. A lot of good lineman dinners, a lot of good fellowship and camaraderie, right?
Yeah, good group. Always putting close.
More to come.
More to come.
Hi, this is Aaron Wilson. Not our first, and won't be our last conversation about what else? The Texans offensive line. And had a very interesting conversation myself with Titus Howard, the Texans veteran, now right guard. And he's been a lot of things for the Texans. He's been their right tackle. He's been their left guard. He stepped in at left tackle a couple years ago when Laramie Tunsil hurt his thumb. And now he moves a couple steps to his right, to the right guard position. He says he's willing to play anywhere, and he's loving the new position. So we'll start with Titus, and then we'll segue to some other thoughts I have on the offensive line. But we're going to play the video for you, and we're going to have that. And we're going to also, you can read the article at www.click2houston.com. And headline is, why Texans Titus Howard, quote, loves new right guard spot, and says offensive line coach Cole Popovich creating a nasty, underestimated line. And we'll get to that. But yeah, just starting with Titus. So to me, Titus is a leader of this offensive line. I think especially now that Laramie's Tunsil's been traded to the Washington Commanders, it's for Titus to step to the forefront and be that guy. He's the most experienced lineman that's been with the Texans for a very long time. a first-round draft pick in 2018 out of Alabama State, and signed that $56 million contract extension, his second contract, and they restructured it and gave him most of his deal in a bonus for this year. So it's a big year for Titus, a contract year, and a lot on the line for Titus as he tries to establish himself as a right guard. I think it's a good position for him. I think because of his strength, his size, his mobility, I think that it's just a very natural spot for him. They're different kind of athletes that you play there, the bigger, heavier guys. He's been working a lot on his strength and conditioning. He looks like he's, I wouldn't say necessarily like leaned up, but he looks like he's restructured his body weight a bit and looks like he's really been lifting some heavy weights. You can tell he's strong. And you can tell when you shake hands with Titus Howard, the kind of grip he's got, the kung fu grip. But yeah, Titus is massive, big, strong guy, and I think well-suited to play right guard. But, if you can play left guard, I feel like you can play right guard, and he's accustomed to the right side, a long background at the right tackle position. And I look at Titus as someone that he can play right tackle for these guys in a pinch. He can do a lot of things for the group. So, he's played everywhere but center. They've never tried to do that. But the whole thing with the offensive line is they said they would overhaul the group. They really gave us the answers to the test this time because DeMeco Ryan said a reset was coming. And he wasn't kidding. They trade Laramie Tunsil. They cut Shaq Mason. They trade Kenyon Green. And they add Cam Robinson, plug him in as the new left tackle. They also signed Laken Tomlinson. They plugged him in as the new starting left guard. Seems to be unchallenged right now. And then you add Jake Andrews, the new starting center, off waivers from the New England Patriots. And I'm sure he'll face some competition from Jared Patterson, but right now Jake Andrews is the front runner. He's the leader to be the new starting center. Titus Howard, of course, at right guard. I don't see Ed Ingram or Juice Scruggs, and we'll get to more about Juice Scruggs later in the video, but yeah, it doesn't look like either guy's pushing him at all. And then right tackle, there is some competition at the tackle position with whenever Ariante Urser, where they feel like they deem him ready to step in and be a starter. Perhaps he beats out Blake Fisher or even Cam Robinson. I think more likely Blake Fisher. So going back to the whole offensive line, and this is interesting about the mentality, because this is a group that gave up the 52 sacks as far as CJ Stroud in the regular season. Then 13 more sacks in the postseason, including 8 sacks and 14 quarterback hits yielded to the Kansas City Chiefs in that playoff loss. Big reason why they lost the playoff game, because they couldn't block George Karlaftis and Stone Cold Chris Jones. It was ugly out there. And then in particular, not just the offensive line, but Dalton Schultz against Karlaftis and 3 sacks allowed. Blake Fisher allowing 3 sacks. It was pretty ugly. And Shaq Mason playing with a bad knee, and that probably didn't turn out to be a very good decision. So Titus, his words, they've got a chip on their shoulders, and people underestimate what they're going to be this year. And he said that's their problem, meaning like outside problem, what people think. When the first game comes and they come off the ball and hit them in the mouth, people are going to be like, wow, these guys are for real. He said they've been putting in that work. We're going to continue to put that work in. It's not going to be perfect, but when game 1 comes, they see what the offensive line is about. We're going to be ready. So a lot of interesting words from him. And a lot of this is because of the confidence they have in Cole Popovich, the disciple of Dante Scarnecchia, a legendary offensive line coach in the New England Patriots. That's where Cole worked prior to going to Troy University, was one of those guys who wanted to get the vaccine. That was the reason why he was leaving the Patriots. And then he coached high school football for a little while in Massachusetts and then went to Troy, where he coached Jake Andrews and had a lot of success. This is going to be his 3rd year with the Texans. He's now not just head offensive line coach after Chris Strausser was very disappointed in the past 2 years. And Popovich had lots of ideas that he wanted to implement, and now he gets to do that. So he works in tandem with Nick Haley, new offensive coordinator, his former Patriots colleague. They worked under the great Bill Belichick, won Super Bowls together, and they see things the same way. And so they talk about the one voice. It's Popovich's voice, so it's what Popovich thinks. And the guys have a lot of praise for him. One word for the stamp that Popovich will place on the offensive line from Titus: nasty. He says you got to play with a lot of grit. When offensive lines are physical, they don't take shit from nobody. I think I can say that on YouTube. And they don't just establish the dominance up front, Titus says. And he says that Cole Popovich exemplifies that every morning, every day on the field. And he says you want that from a coach who will rub off on the offensive line, holds them to a high standard. So a demanding coach, and they seem to really like his tough love that they're getting from Cole Popovich, who was a former lineman himself at Fresno State, a big guy that you can kind of tell he played football, and that always seems to do well with players. Like on the defensive line, Rod Wright and Frank Ocam, a lot of credibility. These guys were defensive linemen themselves. So I think a lot of times you do want to have a former lineman coaching the linemen. So for Titus, looking at what they did with him, so they restructured the contract. They lowered his base salary to $1.17 million, and they converted the original scheduled salary into a $14.33 million signing bonus. So he makes the exact same amount of money, and so they converted that, a total of $12.875 million, into the fully guaranteed signing bonus. And so now he gets the lower base salary, and salary cap figure goes down to $8.405 million. So very manageable. There are avoidable years in 2027, 2028, and $30 million each year. So there's a salary cap figure. It's pretty affordable. Makes the $16 million and has the avoidable year added to the original. So yeah, one of the most experienced linemen. He says he's embracing a leadership role. He's all in on being a leader, Titus says. And I believe him. He says he's doing the best he can to transform his body, transform daily habits to show the young guys the right way to do it. That's what it's about. You want to set a good example. So he says he's looking forward to the challenge of being that leader in the group. Wants to be the guy the guys looked up to. They're like, hey, man, Titus does it the right way, and I want to do it that way. So good stuff from Titus. And, yeah, I could kind of, like I said, I've always kind of thought that he added something in terms of intangibles, leadership, all those things. So, yeah, it's good to have Titus involved in the way that they're evolving him, and I think it's going to be a strong overall group. We'll just see how good is it going to be. We're not completely sure yet, and why? Because they haven't played a real game yet. That's when the real test of the offensive line comes. We'll see in the preseason. As you guys know, there is a joint practice against the Detroit Lions, who have a good defensive line. They have Aiden Hutchinson. They have some really good football players. So that is going to be interesting to see some of those matchups with their defensive line and when they play the Panthers in the preseason. So we'll just kind of get some sneak previews in these practice sessions of how they look against the other linemen. Big thing is, and everybody will say this, well, why can't they block Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter? Well, a lot of people can't block them, but they've got to get better at blocking them. They've got to make strides in that area, or otherwise people are going to say same old Texans, same old offensive line. Hope springs eternal, especially in the spring when you made a lot of changes. But we don't know yet. But we know they're saying the right things, and sounds like the attitude is different. I can tell the guys are happier. I've heard this behind the scenes as well from many, that this group, they're really embracing the Popovich way. Yes, that was intentional. I just watched Ted Lasso, but a little different coaching style than Ted Lasso, and a lot more of a football background in the sport. He's specializing in, not like soccer, like Ted Lasso was a football coach. For any of you guys that have Apple TV, I highly recommend it. It was a fun show. Just about a coach, fish out of water story, coaching soccer in the Premier League. But the Texans, they're in the Premier League. Maybe not a premier conference, AFC South, not great. But I like the vibe that I'm feeling around the offensive line. I am being a glass half full guy right now. I have my skepticisms because I've seen it. I've been watching this and chronicling the offensive line and watching it closely for years. And I've seen some good, like Laramie Tunsil, 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle, and now out of the picture. And I've seen some bad. I've seen some guys that just don't have what it takes. They're just not there yet. But I don't only want to talk about starters, but I want to start with starters. So let's go through it. Cam Robinson, not the most impressive looking guy physically, but he moves well, and he's a good lineman. He can get it done. He's been really solid. I talked to Kevin O'Connell about the job he did for the Minnesota Vikings when they lost their left tackle, and he did a very credible, solid job. The Texans are paying him decent money, paying him up to $14.5 million. I think he can hold it down, barring injury, and be the left tackle and protect C.J. Stroud's blind side. I think he can be okay. I'm not sure how much Laken Tomlinson has left, but he is reliable and he's very durable. He hasn't missed a start in, I think, over 5 years. So you have Tomlinson. Then at center, Andrews he had a lot of injuries with the Patriots. His health is something I think they're going to have to worry about a little bit. If not, Jared Patterson, very reliable at snapping the football and making line calls. And it sounds like C.J. Stroud's going to make a lot of line calls this year because he's going to have that autonomy and ownership of protections and audibles and all that sort of thing. And then, we've talked a lot about Titus. And then right tackle Blake Fisher. I've seen Blake. He's moving better. He looks a little stronger to me. He's lost some of the baby fat, but it's not a bodybuilding contest. It's about how you play. And he had some problems out there against some of these really good linemen, especially Will Anderson Jr. So it's difficult. Blocking will is not the only standard of whether you're a good lineman. It's just part of the picture. A lot of questions about Ariante Ursary. Just had the one false start. Doesn't seem to be like he has a lot of problems with false starts, and he didn't at Minnesota. He's someone that has risen to the occasion before against elite linemen like Abdul Carter. He'll need to do that in the NFL. He's still working on lowering his pad level. He's a real hard-working guy. They like the work ethic. They feel like he accepts coaching well, and he's getting better. And it's just a matter, to me, when, not if, he becomes a starter. I just couldn't tell you when, because it's going to be when they deem his development to be at the point where they feel comfortable plugging him as a starter. To me, the more vulnerable guy is Fisher. But we'll see. This is going to be a battle. Both have the same agency, by the way, Clutch Sports. So either way, Clutch Sports, I think, is going to have the starting right tackle represented. Juice Scruggs, he's really fallen on the depth chart. He's not even necessarily second on the depth chart. A lot of times we're seeing Ed Ingram or Jalen Thomas out there before Juice Scruggs. This is a disappointing turn of events, to say the least, for a second-round draft pick. I know that he wasn't a center, but I thought that he had a chance to be a right guard. And he could have been, if they were playing Titus Howard at tackle, he would have been in the mix. But they're obviously kind of down on him. And I believe big in the axiom of actions speak louder than words. Their actions, the team, the coaches, what they're doing with the depth chart, that says a lot. And I wonder, if he's not going to be playing and he's just going to be depth, maybe a change of scenery is in order. I don't know if someone's going to give you anything like a second-round pick, obviously, but maybe you're clearing like a fourth or a fifth. They've got to think about that. An X factor for the line is the big swing tackle, biggest lineman in the league at 6'8" and 380 at Trent Brown. And Trent's coming around a bit from the knee injury. He's not ready to play yet. I think he will not necessarily be ready for the start of camp either. But, he's making progress. Jalen Thomas, very quietly, has done some good things. And former SMU lineman that's been around here for a few years and I think does a good job. And I don't look at him as a starter, but I think he could step in. And he may be a surprise guy to some that winds up making the squad. And I think when they cut Nick Broker, that really helped Jalen. Zach Thomas played a lot, especially in the minicamp. We saw a lot of Zach. Zach's solid, and he's a former Patriot, and he's been here for a couple of years. They have a very good undrafted rookie center that I think will probably be on the practice squad, Eli Cox. A lot of questions, of course, about Ladarius Henderson. You guys saw my interview with Ladarius at the Jalen Petrie football camp. Done a great job of getting healthy from the foot surgery and working on his body and just getting to a great place where he's, I think, set to challenge for something. So we'll see if he makes the roster. Of course, Austin Deculus, bubble guy, local guy, Cy-Fair High School, same as Cal McNair, former LSU lineman. And, he's snuck his way onto the roster more than once. So he's someone that wouldn't surprise me if he was a part of it. But, we're going to see. This is going to be the big training camp story to me, besides the Nick Haley offense and the new look receiving core, is the offensive line. That's kind of the state of the offensive line heading out of the mini camps. And, of course, they need to protect the guys with football. C.J. Stroud, and open big holes for running backs. Nick Chubb. I should have said Joe Mixon first. Joe Mixon. He'll get healthy eventually. He'll be out there. And Nick Chubb. And maybe Dameon Pierce. We'll see. Damien's still hurt as well. No other nuggets for you guys. Sometimes I like to drop those to the bottom. I can tell you on cornerback, it's not really worth the whole video, so let's do that. As you guys know, they worked out some corners. Duke Shelley and Keenan Isaac and, of course, Damon Arnett. They've maintained contact with those guys. They've had physicals. No one's been offered a contract yet. There's another corner. I don't want to say his name yet. It's a corner that, I'm not going to put out on YouTube just yet, and I haven't written about him, but it's not Russell Douglas. It's not Stephon Gilmore. It's someone else, but it's still a name guy that's played a lot that's coming off an injury. So we'll see if that culminates. I think it could in the next couple of weeks if they decide to go forward with the corner. I think they will. And so right now I don't necessarily anticipate them signing Damon Arnett or Duke Shelley, but they did have those guys take physicals, and workouts went fine, and so we'll see what happens, but they do need another corner, and they know that, and they'll keep working on that after the retirement of Ronald Darby. And we'll do have another video. I want to give some thoughts on Tank Dell, because I was around Tank at a great youth football camp, so we'll have a separate video about Tank, and we're going to plan an upcoming live session, my first. I've never done one before, so I hope I'm technologically up to snuff on how to do that. So guys, thanks so much for watching and listening and subscribing. We are now at over 9,050 subscribers. Appreciate it. So next goal is 10,000, like I talked about, and we're just going to keep growing the channel and seeing where it ends up. Thanks to everyone that watched the CJ Gardner-Johnson interview. Appreciate guys like Seth Payne for excerpting it and giving some love to the channel, along with ESPN's Sports Center and their NFL Live show and the NFL Network. And so, yeah, everyone that's, and the guys at some of the different radio stations that have used it. So, yeah, appreciate that. And, yeah, just try to give you guys some good content. And that's an example of the kind of things I aim to do. Can't do that every single day, but every now and then I want to give you guys something cool. And that was the idea with that. And we'll continue to monitor the Jimmy Ward situation as Jimmy looks for a new attorney. He's going to hire a lawyer. He's, of course, out on bail from the domestic violence case. It's a woman that he's had a long-term relationship with, that he has a child with, a son, and they're at a tumultuous time, and it's a serious case, and we take it seriously here. And it's just one of those ones we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the NFL and the personal conduct policy investigation, an active police case in terms of law enforcement in Montgomery County, and what will happen next. But next steps generally, now that there's been bail, you'll have an initial court appearance. You could have a grand jury formed. You could have jury selection. You could have a lot of things happen. And you could also have, they might have some negotiations. Who knows? What if there's a plea? What if there's a lot of things that could happen when it comes to this legal matter? But it's a legal matter, and I'm not going to really offer any opinion about that other than it's serious, and it's surprising to see a team captain and someone that's been very active in the community, has written a children's book, involved. But as I always say, there's two sides to every story. We were not there, and as far as I know, there's no video, and don't know of any witnesses, so I don't know. So I think I just want to be very honest with you guys about that, and I am not going to speculate or offer a ton of opinion on that. It's just it's a very delicate situation. It's one that's surprising, and there's a lot of people that are concerned about this, and we'll see how the team chooses to proceed. But yeah, I don't anticipate any hasty action. I think they will fully vet this thing, not just because of his long-standing relationship with DeMeco Ryans, playing for him with the 49ers and here, but because of due process, because of fairness. And that is kind of what the NFL is coaching into these teams. They want them to let the legal cases play out. This is a criminal matter, so it's going to be in the court system, and it's not going to be, the wheels of justice don't always move quickly. So I expect this to be, something that is an ongoing story. And so most of my coverage is not going to be on here. A lot of it will be on www.clicktohouston.com, at KPRC2. I was interviewed about this the other day. And of course, I'll be on Sports Sunday tonight with Randy McElvoy, along with Landry Locker and Cody Stutes. So please check that out. That's tonight, our conversation with Randy about kind of where the team stands and what's next. Things we're going to watch for at training camp. Great conversation with those guys. Always good to chop it up and talk ball with all three of those guys. So, yeah, I appreciate their time and what we get to do. And I think it was just a really interesting conversation because they have some really good opinions, all of those guys. So it was a lot of fun. And so that will be tonight on Sports Sunday at KPRC2. So, guys, yeah, thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for being patient with things like microphone and I know some don't like my backdrop. I think I should green screen. I don't know. It's all up for debate. But, we're doing the best. The biggest thing to me is giving you the truth, telling you what I know, what I think, and, try to dress it up as much as I can in terms of thumbnails. I made one thumbnail so far. My wife, Shannon, has made all the other thumbnails, and I think she's doing a great job with that. And it's a lot of fun. So it's a family business, a family effort to make these thumbnails and kind of give you that nice cover letter and let you know, well, this is what the topic is. So today, offensive line. And I think we have covered it all. I'll look for your comments, and I'll try to respond to some of them. And, just please keep watching. So I appreciate it, guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks.